All right, so looks like we're diving into the world of accelerated IT learning.
Okay.
Specifically, these intense programs that promise to get you certified and
Right.
job ready, like really
Yeah.
fast, a fraction of the time that it normally takes.
Mm-hmm.
And specifically for this deep dive, we're looking at a YouTube channel called Zero to IT.
Right.
They've got a lot of videos.
You do.
And it seems like they've got some pretty strong opinions
Oh, yeah.
on how to approach this whole thing.
Definitely.
Well, let's see what we can learn.
Let's jump in.
Yeah, so, one of the things that I've noticed right off the bat with Zero to IT is that they don't just focus on specific technologies.
Right.
Like, cloud computing or networking.
Yeah.
They really try to address
This is what I noticed right away.
the psychology of learning.
It's really interesting. They
Yeah.
tackle this chicken and egg problem head on.
I've seen that phrase a lot
Yeah, it comes up a lot.
in their videos. What is this chicken and egg problem?
So it's something that a lot of aspiring IT professionals face.
Oh.
They can't land a job without experience,
Right,
but they can't get experience without a job.
right, yeah.
And Zero to IT argues that this is made worse
Okay.
by some of the ways people traditionally learn IT,
Interesting.
like spending years in school on theory
Okay.
and maybe doing a boot camp that's really short
Yeah.
and relying on these exam dumps to just memorize answers.
They're not big fans of the dumps.
No, they're not.
So what's their solution?
Well, they really emphasize hands-on experience
Fun.
right from day one.
So like throwing you in the deep end and saying swim.
Yeah, pretty much. And
Yeah.
there's actually some good science behind this.
Okay.
Think about how we learn as kids.
Yeah,
We don't just read about riding a bike.
Correct.
We get on the bike and figure it out.
right. Exactly.
And they apply that same thinking to IT learning.
Interesting.
So their philosophy is all about building these practical skills that you can actually use, not just for a job interview,
Yeah.
but in the real world.
Yeah, so instead of just passively absorbing all this information,
Right.
you're actively building, configuring, troubleshooting.
Right, exactly. It's
Well,
like you're creating neural pathways in
Yeah.
your brain.
Makes sense.
And those get stronger and more efficient the more you use them.
Okay.
That's why they have these 52-week programs.
52 weeks. That's a pretty serious commitment.
Oh, yeah.
I'm guessing those programs are pretty detailed.
Yeah, they are incredibly detailed.
Yeah.
And they have this really interesting mix of live instruction and pre-recorded content.
All right, so give me an example.
So take their Zero to AWS Pro program.
Okay.
You've got live sessions where you're working with an instructor,
Okay.
but you also have all these videos and labs that are pre-recorded.
So that kind of gives you that real-time support in those live sessions.
Yeah,
But then you can go deeper
exactly.
at your own pace with the pre-recorded stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Did they talk about what specific content is covered?
Oh, yeah.
Like, how deep do they go?
They go deep. I remember watching a video
Okay.
where they were talking about spending 7 weeks just on virtual private clouds.
7 weeks on VPCs.
Yeah, VPCs.
Wow.
It's like a lot.
It's foundational in
Yeah.
AWS networking. And
Yeah.
they really get into the details.
So they're not just skimming the surface.
No, they really want you to understand
Okay.
it at a deep level.
So speaking of foundations,
Yeah,
they seem to emphasize networking quite a bit,
they do.
both in that AWS program, but also with the CCNA, the
Mhm.
Cisco Certified Network Associate.
Right.
They're pretty adamant that you need to have the CCNA.
Oh, yeah. They're pretty serious about it.
Do you think it's really that essential?
Well, networking is a huge field,
Yeah.
but the CCNA covers a lot of fundamentals
Okay.
that apply to different networking technologies,
So I guess it's like,
like a common language.
yeah, you can use to talk to other network engineers,
Okay.
to troubleshoot problems, to build secure networks.
So it's like a building block that opens up doors
Exactly.
to maybe cybersecurity or other specialization.
Definitely. And a lot of employers want to see it
Okay.
on your resume.
So, Zero to IT, I know they have some advice on how to prepare for the CCNA.
Yeah, they do.
I've heard them rant a bit about some of the mistakes people make
They do.
when they're studying for it.
Yeah.
What do they say about exam dumps?
Oh, they're not fans of the dumps.
Yeah, they're not big on those.
They say it does more harm than good
Okay.
because you don't really learn anything.
What about people who try to build their own lab setups?
Yeah.
Or those that just do a short boot camp?
Well, they say that trying to build your own lab without any guidance can be a huge waste of time.
Okay.
And really frustrating.
And the boot camps?
They're fine for an overview, but you don't get the depth you need to really learn the material.
Didn't they say something about using exam dumps strategically?
They did.
I'm curious about that.
Yeah, it's an interesting approach.
Right.
So they say, Don't use them to memorize the answers,
Right.
but use them to understand the kinds of questions you'll see.
Okay.
So you know where to focus your studies.
So like a roadmap.
Yeah, like a roadmap.
Not a crutch.
Exactly.
That's a good way to put it.
Work smarter, not harder.
Like that.
Now, if we move on to the CCIE,
Okay.
which is really the holy grail of networking certification.
Oh, yeah. The CCIE.
Yeah.
That one's super difficult.
Yeah, super difficult.
How do they even approach that in a 52-week program?
Well, it's ambitious,
Yeah.
but they say you got to track your progress every week.
Okay.
Ignore all the negative people who say you can't do it,
Right.
and just understand that most people fail because they don't even try.
So it's a real mind over matter approach.
Yeah, it's very much a mindset thing.
That makes me think of their video called Mastering the Zone.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
The one where they talk about flow state.
Right.
That seems to tie in pretty well here.
Yeah, they argue that deep focus is key for any challenging task,
Yeah.
especially something as hard as the CCIE.
Right.
So they talk about how to get into that flow state.
So it's not just about technical knowledge.
Right.
It's also about mindset,
Absolutely.
discipline,
Yeah.
study habits,
All of that.
things that a lot of traditional learning environments don't focus on.
They don't.
They just focus on what to learn,
Yeah, exactly.
not how to learn it effectively.
That's a big one.
We've covered a lot of ground here.
Yeah.
And I'm already seeing how Zero to IT's approach is different
Yeah.
than,
Yeah.
The traditional way of doing things.
It's a different philosophy.
Yeah.
For sure.
But there's still a lot to unpack here.
Oh, yeah.
And I think next we should dive into those psychological aspects
I agree.
that they're emphasizing.
Because it might be the key to unlocking your potential in IT.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right.
Let's take a break and we'll come back
So good.
and discuss that.
All right.
We'll be right back after this.
Okay.
So before the break, we were talking about how Zero to IT
Ray.
emphasizes not just technical skills,
Mm-hmm.
but the psychological side of learning.
It's like they're combining
Yeah.
IT training with personal development.
It's a pretty interesting approach
That's smart.
because to really do well in IT,
Yeah.
especially if you're trying to learn things quickly,
Right.
you need more than just
Yeah, you need more than just the technical stuff.
the technical know-how.
You need the grit, the discipline,
Right.
the self-belief to overcome challenges.
They talk a lot about setting big goals,
They do.
not just passing the exam, but
Yeah.
really seeing yourself as a successful IT professional.
If this is where it gets really interesting,
Okay.
they connect this back to that
Okay.
chicken and egg problem.
Right. Yeah.
Remember how they critique just learning to get a job?
Yeah.
They say if you're thinking, I need this certification so I can get a job,
Mm-hmm.
that's already limiting you.
So instead of saying, I need to get certified to get a job,
Right.
it's more like, I'm going to become so good,
Exactly.
they're going to be begging me to work there.
That's a bold statement,
Yeah.
but it's empowering.
Yeah. I mean, when you approach learning
Right.
with that much confidence,
Yeah,
it changes things.
it does.
It's not about checking boxes.
Oh, right.
It's about
You're investing in yourself.
investing in yourself,
Yeah.
in your future.
And that comes through,
And employers can sense that.
both in your skills and how you present yourself.
They're not looking for someone who just memorized enough to pass a test.
Yeah. They
They want someone who can solve real problems.
Right.
Someone who's passionate, who's driven.
It's not just about the piece of paper.
It's not.
It's about becoming
You got to be a valuable asset.
the valuable asset.
It sounds like Zero to IT is trying to give their students a
Yeah.
whole toolkit.
Yeah. Not just one tool.
And they also talk about,
They do.
the mental blocks.
Oh, yeah. The mental
I can really hold people back.
things like imposter syndrome,
Yeah, imposter syndrome.
self-doubt.
That's something that I think a lot of people struggle with.
A lot of people, especially when they're new to a field
Yeah.
and they don't sugarcoat it,
Okay.
they say you need to build up your resilience.
All right.
You got to push past your comfort zone and accept that you're going to have some setbacks.
Right.
They have this great quote in one of their videos.
Okay.
There's no such thing as arriving super prepared for the exam and failing.
Wow.
The point is, most people fail because they never even start.
Because they don't believe in themselves.
Psych themselves out.
Yeah, and they really emphasize action.
You're right. You can't just take in information.
Right.
You got to use it.
Yeah.
Play with it. Experiment.
Make it your own.
Yeah. Make it your own. That's how you really learn.
So they're not just teaching technical skills.
We're teaching a whole way of approaching things. Mindset, yeah. A way of thinking about challenges and goals.
And that's something that you can use
yeah.
in any area of life.
Absolutely.
Not just IT.
Not just IT.
So let's say someone is listening to this.
Yeah.
And they're thinking, man, I really like this Zero to IT approach.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if I can commit to a 52-week program?
That's a good question.
What advice would you give them?
I'd say start by figuring out what your goals are and how you like to learn.
Okay.
Are you someone who likes structure and accountability?
Yeah.
Do you like to learn by doing? If you do, then this kind of program might be a good fit.
But even if you don't do a full 52-week program, there's still a lot to learn.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
From the zero to IT approach.
The hands-on stuff, building projects, preparing for job interviews right from the start. You can do all of that.
It's about taking charge of your life.
And having that growth mindset, because IT changes all the time.
Yeah, it's always changing.
So you got to be able to learn new things fast.
Which is something that zero to IT talks about all the time.
They do. They're big on continuous learning.
You just told me.
They say getting certified is just the first step.
It's a lifelong journey.
It's a journey, yeah. You got to keep learning.
They even recommend setting aside time each week for professional development.
Reading blogs, trying new tools, taking courses.
Doesn't have to be a chore.
No, it should be fun.
If you're really into IT, there's so much to learn.
And it's that passion that keeps it exciting.
Yeah.
All the new stuff.
Yeah, constantly challenging yourself.
Exactly.
So we've talked a lot about the zero to IT philosophy.
You have.
Their approach to learning, the importance of mindset, building community.
Yeah.
But what about the practicalities?
That's a good point.
How do they actually structure their programs?
They have a really specific method that they've developed over time.
I think it would be helpful to break it down.
I agree.
So people can see how it works.
Step by step.
All right. Sounds good to me.
All right.
So before the break, we were about to get into the nitty-gritty of how zero to IT structures their programs.
Okay.
You said they had a very specific method.
Yeah. Think of it as building a house.
Okay.
They start with a really strong foundation.
So back to basics.
Yeah.
But how do they make sure that students don't just get stuck?
That's a good question. In theory.
They get you doing real-world projects.
Okay.
Right from the beginning.
Give me an example.
So let's say you're in the AWS program.
Okay.
They might have you build a web server.
Okay.
Something simple at first.
Okay.
But then as you learn more, you add more complexity.
So it's not just reading a book or watching a video.
It's not enough.
It's actually building something with your own two hands.
And these aren't just random projects, but they're aligned with what you'd actually see in a real IT job.
So you can show them off to employers.
Yeah, build up your portfolio.
Which brings us back to job interview prep.
Right.
They're big on that.
They integrate it into everything they do.
So it's not just about passing the exam.
It's not just about the paper.
It's about
how you're able to get the job.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's something.
A lot of traditional schools miss that.
They just focus on the technical stuff?
Yeah, and then their students graduate.
Right.
And they don't know how to talk about their skills.
Right. And zero to IT seems to be trying to create a community.
Oh, yeah.
They talk a lot about collaboration, peer learning.
They have online forums, study groups. They even have social events.
That's cool.
So it's a real community.
Yeah, because IT can be kind of isolating sometimes.
It can.
Especially if you're just learning on your own.
Great. So having that support system can really keep you going.
And it fits in with their emphasis on lifelong learning.
They want you to keep learning even after you graduate, to keep connecting with people in the field.
So we've talked about the zero to IT philosophy.
We have.
Their program structure, mindset, community. Is this approach right for everyone?
That's a tough question.
Yeah.
It's not a one-size-fits-all thing.
Right.
But it makes you think about how we learn IT.
And I think their success stories kind of speak for themselves.
They say they have a really high placement rate.
Yeah, they do.
And their students seem really happy.
So they must be doing something right.
It seems like it. It's like they're bridging the gap between what you learn in school and what you actually need
to do the job,
which is what really matters in the end.
Yeah.
Giving people the skills to succeed in IT.
Well, I think it's safe to say.
Yeah.
This deep dive into zero to IT has been...
It's been really insightful. I learned a lot.
Their approach to learning is definitely different.
Yeah.
Challenging, but also really interesting.
I think it's kind of revolutionary.
And hopefully it's given our listeners a new way to think about IT education.
It's given me some new ideas.
So whether you decide to go the zero to IT route or find your own path.
The important thing is to keep learning.
Keep exploring and keep pushing those boundaries in IT.
Absolutely.
That's all for this deep dive.
All right.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.